Boom. Is that what the kids are saying nowadays? Tennessee football recruiting, it is on a heater, and I should go out of town more often. Recapping the hottest team on the recruiting trail here on a Monday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Monday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Eric Kane, and couldn't do it without our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook here today. They make every moment more. You can make every moment more yourself over at FanDuel.com. We got a fun show coming up today. Tennessee football recruiting is on a heater. Matter of seconds, we'll talk about tight end DaSaahn Brame, who flipped from Oregon on Sunday. In segment number 2, we'll talk about four-star priority target for quite some time, Shaedy Hayward, and how it was always going to be Tennessee. And then in segment number 3, where Tennessee ranks in recruiting right now, some interesting tidbits, some stats about June official visits, and we're going to highlight 2 assistant coaches who have done really, really well despite a lot of scrutiny when they were promoted from within by Josh Heupel. A lot of recruiting talk here on the Monday edition of Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Eric Kane. Can't thank you enough for being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. You everydayers, you make the show possible. And send in your questions, your comments, your concerns for tomorrow's show for a little mailbag edition of Locked On Vols. I'll answer your questions on Tuesday at _Kaner, at Locked On Vols, and of course on the YouTube section for the comments. So let's get into it. DaSaahn Brame, he was the second part of a two-part boom, if you will, for the class of 2025 for the University of Tennessee, which I'm not going to bury the lead here. We'll get into more specifics in segment number 3, but Tennessee now is a top 10 recruiting class. Continued to say it all year long. Let it play out, let it play out, let it play out. It might not be a top 10 recruiting class. It's not the end of the world if it's not, or if it is a top 10 recruiting class. But this class is going to be much better than the 14th or 15th, ranking it had about a month ago. And then lo and behold, it's 7th in the nation right now, 4th in the SEC. What did I say should be the goal for Tennessee this year? Top 10, top 5. Top 10 in the country, top 5 in the SEC. And Tennessee's sitting right there. It's not over. I recognize that. But Tennessee is a top 10 recruiting class in the country right now for the class of 2025, 7th in the country, 4th in the SEC. And the second commitment for Tennessee this weekend was actually from the flipping variety. Variety. I can't say that word very well. Variety. There we go. DaSaahn Brame, flipping from Oregon to the University of Tennessee. He's a 4-star tight end. All right, Tennessee's been on him for quite some time. Now, about the tight end position, Tennessee had, of course, now you brought in Holden Stays. You've got he's an NFL draft eligible player this year. Doesn't mean he's going to go. Of course, he got a lot to prove, but technically he could be gone. Ethan Davis is now a redshirt freshman, second-year player. He'll be here for a couple more years, but those are your kind of starters. You have Miles Kitselman, who's in his final year of eligibility, coming over from Alabama, and he had a really, really good spring, and it looks like he's going to play a lot at tight end this year. So kind of those 3 leading the pack. One of those guys will be gone for sure. You got, an upperclassman, then a young guy. Then you have Jack Van Dorselaer, who was signed as a commit in this class, highly rated 4-star prospect from the state of Texas. He and G-Mac have been really, really close for quite some time. They know each other. They have a prior relationship, and they were kind of some of the building blocks for this class. You had Cole Harrison, who signed on right before committed to Tennessee right before National Signing Day for the class of 2024. But you had Emmanuel Okoye, about said Okafor, Emmanuel Okoye, who signed on to play tight end here. Of course, he was the big-time project player from the NFL Academy in London, not a former football player, still very, very new to the sport and learning it, and certainly, how to play it on American soil. And, at the NFL Academy in London, I mean, they were playing on soccer fields that had no hash marks. That just kind of goes to show you how much of a project player he was, and this being Emmanuel Okoye. And he's still on the team, but they flipped him over to defensive line, to the edge position, to utilize his long arms, his explosiveness. And so he's no longer a tight end. The fact of the matter is they just needed another body. Not just another body, they need another tight end to come in and replenish that room that's experiencing a lot of turnover. And they love Jack Van Dorselaer. They also love DaSaahn Brame. And DaSaahn Brame has been one of those guys they've been high on for quite some time. They recruited really, really heavily this spring, this summer. Tennessee was the leader. He had a June official visit, but he had a June commitment announcement ready to roll. Okay, or maybe it was early August. I can't remember. Or no, it was early July, excuse me. Getting my months mixed up here. And Tennessee was in the lead. Tennessee kind of led to that last night, and then Oregon made a big push there at the end. He commits to the Ducks, but it's like Tennessee never lost momentum. And you're probably sitting here saying like, well, he didn't commit to Tennessee. How in the world are you saying that he never lost momentum? I hear you. He committed elsewhere, and sure, he was part of that class, and he was putting up the Go Ducks and all that and helping them recruit and everything. But he continued to talk to Tennessee, and a couple of days after he committed, and Austin Price over at VolQuest.com, my colleague, he kind of broke it down in an interview with him that you can check out over at VolQuest.com. It was a couple of days after he committed. He's like, oh, no. Was that a little bit too premature? Did I jump the gun? Calls Alex Abeln saying, hey, man, I think I might have jumped the gun a little bit. Don't you forget about me. I'm not going to sing the song, but, it's like, don't you forget about me. And Tennessee just kept going and going and going. And then the last the last week or two, it was not a matter of if, it was a matter of when Tennessee was going to flip DaSaahn Brame. And he's a really, really good player. You look at his makeup, he is a 4-star rated tight end. On3 has him as the 145th overall player in the country, the 9th rated tight end in the class, and the 4th from the state of Kansas. He's from Derby, Kansas. 6'4.5", 225 pounds. Now, you look at the On3 industry rankings, okay? He is the 101st tight end, or the 101st player across the board. If you look at the weighted averages from On3 and 247, they got 35%. Rivals.com, that's got 20%, and ESPN, that's got 10%. He's got the 101st rated prospect overall, 4th tight end, and 3rd prospect from the state of Kansas. 247 is very much high on him, 102nd in the country. ESPN has him as 229th in the country, but they don't take their job seriously. But they do have him as the 3rd ranked tight end. I'm not sure how that works. Again, don't trust ESPN to give you recruiting info because they don't pour into it. And Rivals.com has him as the 101st overall prospect. So across the board, very, very highly, touted prospect. And, Tennessee, the full court press on him for quite some time. And it's not that they don't like Jack Van Dorselaer. They really, really do. They want to keep him in the class because we know this position plays multiple guys at the same time, whereas the wide receiver position doesn't do that an awful lot. They love them some Brame, and they continue to go after him. And credit where credit's due. They were able to finish this one out and able to get him to flip from Oregon to Tennessee on Sunday. This is from Charles Power, the director of recruiting and scouting over at On3. A quote from Matt Ray's impact analysis over at VolQuest.com. Quote from Charles Power. DaSaahn Brame is a talented tight end prospect who excels as a pass catcher. I think he's got a good combination of size and athleticism. He measures in at 6'5.5", 220 pounds this offseason. He is one that excels at working up the seam. We see him primarily line up at the high school level, flex into the slot, much like Ethan Davis. He creates mismatches when he draws a linebacker or safeties working in the middle of the fields. He had a productive junior season playing at Derby, one of the top programs in Kansas. 942 receiving yards, 13 touchdowns, scored a touchdown out of one of every 4 catches. He is the guy who I think, looking at his skill set, reminds me a lot of Holden Stays coming out of high school. That's interesting. I think he's probably a better pass catcher. I think physically they are similar and would probably play similar roles in Tennessee's offense. When I look at Brame, his real strength right now is to separate down the seam, elevate, and show a good pass-catching radius, and I think his ability after the catch is positive as well. We see him rip off long runs as a junior. I think he's shown that he can come down with contested catches, and I think that is encouraging. He is not the longest in terms of his arm length, but I think his coordination, his stature, his ability to mitigate all that in terms of his catch radius is a plus for Tennessee, end quote. So that is Charles Power, Director of Recruiting and Scouting for On3 on Tennessee's new tight end commit, DaSaahn Brame, who flipped from Oregon to the Volunteers on Sunday night. So that ended a really, really good weekend for Tennessee. What started the weekend for Tennessee in terms of commitments? And of course, there were other highly touted prospects on campus this weekend as things open up for the last weekend of July before it closes back down. And so these guys can start their high school senior seasons. David Sanders, 5-star prospect, was in town. Highly rated 4-star cornerback Onis Konanbanny was on campus as well. He released the top 2. We'll get into that in segment number 3. But who started the commit train for the Volunteers here this weekend? That is coming up next as we Just spoke on DaSaahn Brame, flipping from Oregon to Tennessee. Now we'll get into Shaedy Hayward. Continue on here as your Monday edition of Locked On Vols rolls on. Stay tuned. Sandals, sunscreen, snacks for your kids. What do all these things have in common? You're probably buying a ton of those this summer, but don't stress about the cost, okay? Use Ibotta and get cash back on all your purchases when you stock up on all those summer essentials. Ibotta is a free app and lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items from the grocery stores, from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys for the kids. You can make sure that you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 a year. Hey, if you had a free $256, I'll take it. I'll take yours, right? It's out for the taking. You can earn there by using Ibotta. With the average Ibotta user earning $256 a year, that could cover the entire cost of a shopping trip, that flight that you've been eyeing for the next vacation, or the fancy dinner that you've been craving. You can save on over 2,400 brands and shop at over 1,000 realtors, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Best Buy, and so much more. It's time you join the over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta out by using the promo code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play, download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's Ibotta, Ibotta, in Google Play or App Store. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. And another sponsor that's returning to the show, and we couldn't be more thrilled about it, is Factor Meals. I've used Factor Meals. I love Factor Meals, guys. Warmer, sunnier days, they're calling us to fuel up. And with Factor's no prep, no mess meals, you can really benefit from this. Meet your wellness goals in time for the summer months thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy some nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day that you kickstart a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? 35 different meals, over 60 add-ons to choose from every single week. You'll always have flavors to explore. You can, again, crush your wellness goals, dietitian-approved meals, make every single day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled, easy with nutritious options. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Seriously, I'm always on the go. I'm over at campus. I'm doing this podcast. I'm writing for VolQuest.com. I'm doing Rivalry Thursday. These meals, never frozen, mind you. Just pop them in the microwave, put the fork, make a couple of holes there, and boom. It's good. It's healthy for me. It's easy to use, and you can benefit from it as well. Head on over to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to use the promo code LockedOnCollege50 to get $50 off your first box plus $20 off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Again, check out Factor Meals today. You will love it. So we talked about DaSaahn Brame in segment number 1. The commitment that got the ball rolling for Tennessee this weekend was highly rated 4-star safety Shaedy Hayward, who committed to Tennessee around lunchtime on Saturday. Class of 2025, of course, safety, 6'1", 205 pounds. All right, he's got an On3 industry ranking across the boards, again, of On3, 247, ESPN, and Rivals.com, being the 100 ranked national prospect, the 9th safety, and the 13th prospect from the state of Georgia. And you guys know what we talk about recruiting in the state of Georgia. You're top 15 or 20, you're a really, really good football player. So across the recruiting landscape, this is a top 100 player. For On3 specifically, Shaedy Hayward is considered the 75th ranked prospect. The 75th ranked prospect, the 4th safety, and the number 11 player from the state of Georgia. 247 has him as prospect number 82 in the country. ESPN has him as prospect rating number 104th in the country, and Rivals.com doesn't have him rated nationally just yet, but that, of course, can change once they redo their ranking. So, really, really good player. Again, 6'1", about 205 pounds. He's been on Tennessee for quite some time. Matt Ray put a post up at volquest.com, my colleague, on Saturday after he committed to Tennessee. Essentially, they had a conversation way back in the spring. This was after like one of his unofficial visits to Tennessee, and I mean, this is months ago. I can't remember what month it was, maybe like April or May, but it was spring. And they were talking about kind of his summer months and what his plans were for official visit here and all that type of stuff. And Matt said at the end of the conversation, he's like, "Hey, I just want to let you know I'm going to commit to Tennessee. I really want my family to have this experience, have this process of going on seeing these schools, seeing these official visits, having this experience. I think it's really, really cool, and can't blame him for wanting to do that, and can't blame him for wanting his family to experience that as well. But even back in the spring, it was like, hey, it's going to be Tennessee. I'm going to commit to Tennessee. And that's all well and dandy. If you're sitting there and he says that to me back in the spring, I'm like, okay, that's great. But it's not over until you commit. And even then it's not over until you sign, because this era of name, image, and likeness and transfer portal, and I know that has nothing to do with recruiting right now specifically, but my point is it's never over until you sign. But somebody says, hey, it's going to be Tennessee, but I'm going to wait. It's like, okay, well, so much can happen by the time that you want to wait, right? If you want to wait 2 weeks, if you want to wait a month. That's why this whole Jaden Perlotte, Georgia commit right now, nobody believes he's going to be in the class for Georgia. Forever, it felt like he was going to be a Tennessee flip, but it still hasn't happened yet. And now they're seeing Cristobal's roll in for USC. So it's like things can happen the longer and longer you wait. But that wasn't the case for Shaedy Hayward. He knew where he wanted to go. He stuck to his guns, and he's a Tennessee Volunteer, committing to the Volunteers on Saturday, and a really, really, really nice player. You look at what Matt Ray wrote about him over at volquest.com in his impact analysis. A quote from Charles Power, who, again, is the Director of Scouting and Recruiting over at On3. Quote, Shaedy Hayward is a pure football player. He is a fantastic three-phase player at the high school level and is a guy who just makes a ton of plays at every opportunity on Friday nights, which I think is a great starting point when evaluating back seven defenders at safeties and linebackers. We really look for how these guys are as football players, and I think Laganza, which is his first name, his true name, goes by Shaedy Hayward, is fantastic in that regard. He moved up for us in our recent On 300 update, and I think there's just so much to like about what he brings to the table. For starters, he is a really, really good size. He's around 6'1", 200 pounds. He has good length of the position. At safety, he is very versatile. He can play in coverage. He's extremely physical. Love how he embraces contact, seeks out contact. I think he separates himself within the safety group in that regard, and just that he is a strong tackler. He can lay some hits. He's got good striking power. He's a guy who just kind of has a knack for being around the football. He's just the kind of natural playmaker that you want. We can see that on special teams, on offense. His ball skills at the safety position, I think, projects well. Love the mentality that he plays with. Younger for the cycle as well. He could easily be a 2026 prospect. He will turn 17 in late July. He won't turn 18 until right before his freshman year of college. So there's still a lot of room for growth there. I think Shaedy Hayward is a guy who is already a great football player, is well-rounded as a safety prospect, and has the room to continue to grow and be better. I think he has the mentality to get there as well, end quote. A lot of good stuff there from Shaedy Hayward. And again, it was not a matter of, same with Brame the last couple weeks, but for Hayward, it wasn't a matter of when or if, it was just when. I mean, when are you going to commit? When are you going to commit? Wanted to do his due diligence, wanted to go through those official visits, wanted to have the experience for himself and for his family, and he jumps in the boat on Saturday. So you look at Tennessee's class now, and that brings Tennessee to 20 overall commits. We'll get into the rankings here in a moment, but for DaSaahn Brame, who we spoke on in segment number 1, he now becomes Tennessee's 6th highest rated prospect. Shaedy Hayward now becomes Tennessee's 5th highest rated prospect. That list goes like this: George McIntyre, number 1, Douglas Utu, number 2, Marion Dye, number 3, Travis Smith, number 4, Shaedy Hayward, number 5, we were speaking on in this segment, and DaSaahn Brame at number 6, right in front of Ethan Utley, who comes in at number 7. Of course, this is considered the On3 industry comparison rankings, where they have the weighted, On3, 247 rivals, and ESPN. So Remember when On3 did that shakeup, redid their rankings a couple of weeks ago? Remember that? And everybody was freaking out because George McIntyre dropped. And again, I think it's silly that you drop a player from like top 20 to like number 72 or whatever in the summer when you're not playing any games. I think that's really, really silly. But they dropped, On3 did, my company that I work for, dropped Tennessee's quarterback commit George McIntyre from like a top 20 prospect to number 74 in the country. And Tennessee, because he's Tennessee's highest rated commit, took a dip in the rankings because of that, right? And there were some other guys that dropped as well. But fast forward just a couple of weeks later, let the process play out, and look where you are now. 7th in the country, 4th in the SEC. So Tennessee's sitting real pretty right now. Got two really, really good players in Shaedy Hayward, who committed on Saturday, DaSaahn Brame, the tight end, who flipped from Oregon to Tennessee on Sunday. And this is some really, really good stuff. Tennessee, no ifs, ands, buts about it. Tennessee recruiting is on a heater right now, and it's getting a lot of national praise, and deservedly so. It absolutely deserves that. A couple of interesting facts about Tennessee's recruiting class when we come back in segment number 3. Who is left on the board, and who are two assistant football coaches that at the time of the hiring weren't getting a whole lot of praise because of the lack of recruiting. Look what they're doing now. We'll get into a couple more things at the end of Monday's show when we return right here for segment number 3 of a Monday show. Stay tuned. Our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook, always here, always supporting the show, and I couldn't be more appreciative. I love sports. I love sports so much, I never want them to stop, but the playoffs are winding down. We do have Olympic coverage right now, which is awesome. We do have Major League Baseball coverage, which is awesome. Some golf, some NASCAR. There's still plenty of stuff going on, but there's not football, but just stay tuned. There's going to be football here in a couple of weeks. Regardless of what's happening or not happening, there's plenty to do over at FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel lets the sports keep going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app, dream up any bets anytime that I am in the mood. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers, not just new customers, not just existing customers, every single customer, all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So I need you to do this if you're interested, if I've tickled your fancy a little bit. Head on over to FanDuel.com. Start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, it's the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. FanDuel, it's America's #1 sports book. And FanDuel is where you can make every moment more. FanDuel.com. All right, so Tennessee recruiting. A lot of great things happening right now with Shaedy Hayward committing to Tennessee over the weekend, DaSaahn Brame flipping to Tennessee over the weekend. The Volunteers now have 20 commits for the class of 2025, sitting 7th nationally, 4th in the SEC, according to On3. You look at other publications, 247 has Tennessee sitting at number 5 nationally. Number 5 nationally, number 4 in the SEC. That's going to get it done right there. Rivals.com has Tennessee sitting at number 8 nationally and number 5 in the SEC. And I got to be honest with you, I didn't even look up ESPN because I don't respect and think that they do a good job. So I literally put down on my notepad section right here, I don't care if you can see that. I put down IDC. I don't care about ESPN. So it's a top 10 class nationally when you look at the actual people that cover recruiting. On3, number 7, 247, number 5, Rivals, number 8, number 4 and number 4 for On3 and 247 in the SEC, number 5 in the SEC according to Rivals.com. You got to let things play out, okay? And again, it's not done. Signing day's in December. We got quite some time to go. You're going to have to hold on to some of these guys because some other teams and programs will come swinging and try to get guys to flip, just like Tennessee did with DaSaahn Brame. You got to hold on to some guys. You got to have some good fall evaluations, some late fall evaluations to finalize that recruiting class. But right now, you're sitting really, really good. And it's a credit to what Tennessee has done in the months of June and July for getting all this done. Speaking of which, Brent Hubbs, sometime on a Monday, maybe by the time you're listening to this, it's already out there. He's going to write a column. It's going to be a recruiting column over at VolQuest.com. And he is going to highlight just how Tennessee's been so successful this summer in terms of finishing and closing the door on some of these prospects. An interesting stat that I'm going to pull, that I'm pulling from his column, is that in June, Tennessee had 40 official visitors that came to campus. 40. Tennessee hosted 40 players on official visits in the month of June. As of right now, Tennessee has gotten 18 commits out of those 40. You're hitting it almost 50%. You are never going to hit it 100%. You are hardly ever going to hit it like 60%, okay? You bring in a ton knowing that you can't sign them all and knowing that you couldn't sign them all. But you are nearly batting 500 there. That is phenomenal. Now, some of these guys came in the month of June. They were already committed. I recognize that. In fact, nine of those 18 came. So half of the 18 already was committed to the class. But they get lumped into this category for sure. 9 additional commits have come on since official visits have happened in the month of June. That's a really, really good stat. And credit Brent Hubbs and Austin Price and Matt Ray for kind of, combining and coming up with that number and checking everything for the month of June. But that just goes to show you how successful Tennessee is right now on the recruiting trail. Closing the door, finishing the job. Of the 40 official visitors in June, 18 have committed to the University of Tennessee. And there's potentially more to come, right? The 2 big targets left on the board as of right now. As of this podcast on July the 29th, 2024, 2 big ones remain. Now, there's more that they'll take, don't get me wrong, but the 2 top priorities are cornerback, 4-star Onis Konanbanny, who was back on campus this past weekend, spoke with VolQuest.com, released the top 2. It's Tennessee or Florida State. He's going to have a commitment announcement sometime in the early fall, so a couple weeks away, but not too far down the line. It's Tennessee or Florida State. Tennessee very, very, very much wants him. Onis Konanbanny, 4-star cornerback. And then, of course, the big fish. 5-star offensive tackle, top 5 player in the country, David Sanders. It's been Tennessee and Ohio State for some time. Now it feels like it's Tennessee or Nebraska. Ohio State, I'm not going to close the door on them because obviously it's Ohio State. I don't think that Ohio State is completely out of this picture. Nebraska's making a push here. But from speaking with people that cover recruiting and are closer to the situation than certainly I am, still got to love where Tennessee is. And he was on campus this past weekend, second after he visited Lincoln, Nebraska. Of course, you saw Briola, the quarterback signee and early enrollee this past year for the class of 2024. He kind of led them around and called for Husker Nation, I guess is what you want to call it, to come out there and show support. And they did their thing. And Tennessee did the same thing at the Rock this past weekend. I mean, it's David Sanders. On campus this weekend, yet again, before his August the 18th commitment announcement coming up. So you got to like where Tennessee stands there. But those are the 2 big fish still on the board for the University of Tennessee to add to this top 10 recruiting class as it currently stands. Onis Konanbanny, 4-star cornerback, and 5-star offensive tackle David Sanders, who, of course, is one of the best players in the entire country. And, man, that would really, really solidify Tennessee. If you get David Sanders, you're a top 10 class no matter what, unless the wheels fall off and the bus turns over in the fall, which I don't anticipate happening. Other targets that are still out there, but I would kind of say are a little bit less than those other 2 in terms of likelihood. Tennessee is still very much in the conversation, don't get me wrong, but I like where Tennessee stands with Onis and David Sanders more than I like where Tennessee stands with 2 other offensive linemen and Josh Petty, 4-star offensive lineman, and Josh Petty and Juan Gaston. Neither one of those guys really talk an awful lot as well. So they're kind of a hard read in the recruiting circles. But Tennessee very much in the conversation, hosted them on official visits. Josh Petty and Juan Gaston, offensive linemen, who both are, can play in and outside. I think both project better as interior offensive linemen, but they both can play tackle as well. So Tennessee's in on those. And then 2 other guys who are currently committed elsewhere that are targets for Tennessee, but are kind of trending away from Tennessee in terms of the likely flip candidate would be Jaden Perlotte, who we spoke on a moment ago. Tennessee's still in this one, but now it feels like USC has all the advantage to get that flip from the Georgia commit, and Daune Morris, the running back commit for Southern Cal, who was supposed to come in this past weekend, never made it in. Tennessee's still in on both of those guys, Morris and Perlotte, the current commits to Georgia and USC, but it feels like it was better a couple days ago than what it is now. Doesn't mean it's over, but that's just kind of the feel right now. So those are kind of the targets that are left on the board. You look at, finally, as we conclude a Monday show, I want to highlight the work that 2 assistant football coaches have done. Josh Heupel, no surprise. He likes to promote from within. He's very protective of his offense. He's very protective of his coaching staff. He loves loyalty, just like Tony Vitello. Loves loyalty, loves developing from within, loves guys that come up speaking his own language. That's why he's promoted Joey Halsley to offensive coordinator, Kelsey Pope to wide receivers coach, Alec Abeln to tight ends coach, so on and so forth. There was a lot of criticism at times for Alec Abeln when he got the job, and at the time for Kelsey Pope. Let's start with Pope. Let's look at what Pope has done, not only with what he's done on the field, which I thought he was instrumental in Jalen Hyatt's ascension in 2022, but look what he's done on the recruiting trail since he was promoted from within. In this cycle, 4-star wide receiver commits Travis Smith, Rodarius Jackson, Joakim Dotson, who's a 3-star, and we'll see if Tennessee's done on the wide receiver there. But Travis Smith's a pretty good get in this class, no doubt about it. Rodarius Jackson is a fast riser. You look at last year's cycle, 5-star Mike Matthews and 4-star Braylon Staley. Boy, those are two really, really good ones. And you've got Kelsey Pope to thank for that. The cycle before that, you had 4-star Nathan Leacock, which right now seems like a bust. Okay, he was a fast riser, a late riser, diamond in the rough. On 3 was super, super, super high on Nathan Leacock. Right now, it seems like that might be a bust, but still a lot of football in front of him. But at the time, a really, really good commit for Nathan Leacock and then Nate Spillman. So Kelsey Pope's done work on the recruiting trail. And now, because of the news of DaSaahn Brame flipping from Oregon to Tennessee, let's look at what Alec Abeln's done in limited time on the job. He got Cole Harrison, of course, to commit to Tennessee right when they had a decommitment from the class and signing day was around the corner. He got Cole Harrison to jump in the boat. We'll see what he turns into down the line. Jack Van Dorselaer for this class, whom they love, and DaSaahn Brame now, who they adore, flipping to Tennessee. So, again, part of the job at coaching in the college ranks is you got to recruit as well. 2 guys who were internal hires, 2 guys who fans often criticized at times about their lack of recruiting, have done a pretty good job, and that being Alec Abeln and Kelsey Pope. Tons of recruiting talk here on a Monday show. Hope you enjoyed it. Fall camp starts tomorrow with Media Day on a Tuesday. Practice number 1 is Wednesday. We got it all covered here from every different angle right here on Locked On Vols. I encourage you to send in your questions, comments, concerns, Tennessee football, recruiting, basketball, baseball, all that and more at _Caner at Locked On Vols. And, of course, write a comment on this episode on YouTube. I will answer your questions for you everydayers on tomorrow's show. Got a fun week coming up. Back from New York, got a little, not rest and recovery. Me and my wife walked like 12 and a half miles on Friday. But sightseeing, had a great time. Ran into some flight issues trying to get home, but we're here. We're ready to roll. It's football time. Camp is starting this week. And I am so thrilled to be talking to you all about it right here on Locked On Vols. Thank you guys so much. Let's do it again. Same time, same place tomorrow. This is Locked On Vols.